Good afternoon, everyone. Hope the video finds you well. What a semi-final in the Champions League we had, eh? The Spurs and Liverpool both not getting any away goals, or well, I suppose Spurs were at home. You know what I'm saying? Going in with zeros into the second legs, not looking very good for their Champions League final prospects. If you're holding for Arsenal or Chelsea players, I hope they do the job for you tonight and do some good stuff. If you're tuning into the video, you've probably seen, you've also seen the title of it already. We're going to be chatting about another should you buy type video, and the subject matter we're looking at today is Robert Skov. Just before we get into that, if you have a look at the footy today, we've made a little backward step, 370 points down. Okay, so like we kind of anticipated and we've spoke about periodically, the market is going to be fluctuating around the promotion that Football Index are running for the trading bonus. So I expect the market to kind of calm down for a little while now. We had some massive rises on the last day of phase one, and then some crashes right off the back of that. Even though it did crash, or didn't crash, but some people did dip down quite significantly. The market as a whole rose, So that obviously just tells you there's money moving around, even though the holdings that you might be highlighting in the decreasing section yesterday, if the footy's going up, that means there's still money moving somewhere else. So always bear that in mind, guys, okay? So let's jump right into it now. Robert Skov, we used him as an example in the video yesterday about selling, how to do it, when to do it, all that type of thing. And truth be told, guys, this is somebody who's not been on my radar for a great length of time. Really within the last month is when he's became certainly somebody who I see and pay a bit more attention to in terms of their price movement, just after this meteoric rise he's had, especially over that period there, where he's really taken a massive jump up in a short period of time, is when I really kind of started to pay him a bit more serious consideration, okay? And it'll probably be somebody now where if you're in the same position as me and you hadn't been aware of him earlier in the season, you'd be like, who the hell is this guy? Who does he play for? What's he all about? And that's what we look to kind of answer today is, should you buy Robert Skov, okay? Now, Robert Skov is a right midfielder. He's been dubbed by the Danish and the European press a Robert Pires, the new Robert Pires type thing. And you can go find some interesting YouTube videos. None of them are too recent about the goals he's been scoring and whatever recently. Some of them are maybe about 4 weeks old, 6 weeks old. The ones I've watched by now, that's how old they'll be. And yeah, he seems like a good player, scores some nice goals and everything as well. And at the age of 22, you maybe think, okay, well, it's maybe time that he makes a bit of a transfer and moves on. If we look at the Football Index side of things now, he's a great example for a lot of different topics that you might want to discuss on the market, especially ones who are players who are coming from non-qualifying competitions, who are potentially going to be moving into one, okay? So with the movement he's had, it gives you a great example of buying people out with what we spoke about the other day, buying people who are not on the radar, but you've seen something, you maybe caught a clip of them online or whatever, and being in there nice and early, how profitable and how beneficial it can be, okay? But equally, once people are brought into the spotlight, if you wait for the right opportunity, you can still make good profit on them. And you can see in the graph here when he's levelled out, and then when he's dipped again after that first peak, and then even when he's sitting there now, I would suggest can be good opportunities to make some profit on him. How much profit is there left to be got? Really depends on what else we're going to chat about, okay? So let's have a look at the numbers, okay? Now, I went to go to my old pal, whoscored.com, but they only have the stats on him for his 5 Europa League matches, which are fairly poor in terms of what he contributed in those games. He did score, I think, international cups. He did get 2 goals. It says 13 games here, so whoscored.com isn't also got all those early round of qualifying that Copenhagen would have had to go through for him to play 13 games. They've only got probably the last qualifying stage and then the group or something. They only had 5 matches down for him, so depending what games they played and whatever, that's what it'll be. But if you look at his career as a whole, and I was really surprised to see this on first inspection when I really started looking at him a bit more, is at the age of 22, this is like his 6th season in the professional league, okay? Now, Silkeborg at the moment are not in the Superliga, as they call it in Denmark, and I've not went through their whole history to see if any of these seasons they were or not, right? But Silkeborg gave him a debut somewhere around the age of 16, and as you can see, he's had quite a steady career progression. When you think about those first 3 seasons there, he's between the ages of 16 and 18, And to play 32 senior games and get 7 goals, we don't know about the assists on flash scores, unfortunately, but that is a solid return at any level for a young player breaking in to a team and making a name for themselves. He then has those seasons under his belt, and in between the ages of like 18 and 20, he's got 48 games and 14 goals, which again, for a right midfielder at a young age, is a good return. He's also then sealed a move to Copenhagen. The super team of Denmark, the Copenhagen are the team that we're probably all most familiar with, alongside probably Brøndby. In recent times, Midtjylland, if that's how you say it, have been decent in Europe the last couple of years in Europa. First season in Copenhagen wasn't amazing by any stretch of the imagination, and it's hard to tell if he was maybe injury prone or anything like this as well. In this season, obviously, where all the headlines are coming, 30 games in the league, 26 goals in the cup, nothing really worth mentioning. In Europe, 13 games, 2 goals, but again, for Copenhagen to have played 13 games and not get to the knockout round, they play 6 games in the group stages, which means they've had, so he's had 7 games of qualifying, which means they'd have probably had 8 games of qualifying, so 4 rounds with 2 legs. So those 2 goals for all, and I've not went right into it, but those 2 goals, they weren't in the group stages. They were probably against like the 3rd place team in Gibraltar, or it could have been against anyone. And then for the national team, he's done really well for the under 21s. 10 games, 8 goals. And again, I've not dived right into who their competition was. Were they playing San Marino? Were they playing France? It could be anyone. Feel free to go check that out for yourself. But yeah, so a pretty solid track record. Okay, now Superliga Denmark hasn't got the best track record of producing players that have went on and really performed at the top level. Okay, now as I say that, a few of you might be raising some eyebrows and going, oh, what about Teemu Pukki? He just came out of Brøndby last year and he went to Norwich and he's been the signing of the season in the Championship by a long way. Now Teemu Pukki is from Finland, number 1, and before moving to Brøndby, he had played for Sevilla, he had played for Schalke, and he had played for Celtic before going to Brøndby. So he's not what we're talking about. He's a Danish youth. This guy's a Danish youth product who's came through. Okay, now there's some other players. I think they're probably in the same squad, if memory serves me right. No, they maybe moved on. But another player I'd want you to consider when you're thinking about Robert Skov is Cornelius. Okay, now if you're not familiar with Cornelius, let's see if he's in the Brøndby squad. I know he's playing in Denmark somewhere. He was a big transfer for Cardiff. I think they paid like 9-10 million for him when Malky Mackay was in charge, so that was a good few years ago. The market wasn't quite, it was before we had 100 million transfers, and he did not hit the ground running by any stretch of the imagination, and he's not really done much since. And there's been similar players that have came out of Denmark that haven't really done very well, when they've moved to the UK especially. So that's something you want to be considering when you're thinking about if he makes a move. It depends how long you plan on holding him for. If you're going to be holding him just for that buzz, that initial, pop where he's moving to the Premier League, he's doing this, he's doing that, and people are all jumping on board, then yeah, he can be a good hold. But if you're thinking about who he's going to sign for and potentially earning match buzz and dividends and that type of thing, then there's still a lot yet to be learned about this guy. So do err on the side of caution when it comes to that side of things. I can't find Cornelius, I don't know who he plays with anymore, but that's a good example for you to keep in mind. Okay, now what you now might be thinking is, right, okay, well, who's he been linked with? Okay, and I could go into Google and just search him and show you all the names, but there was a fair amount, so I've just made a little list. Okay, these are the main teams he's been linked with. Okay, so Spurs, Wolves, Watford, West Ham, Arsenal, PSV, Ajax, Fenerbahce and Porto. These are all the main clubs he's been linked with. Okay, now if it goes to any of those bottom 4 teams, his price is not going to do anything that you're going to get excited about. Okay, if he moves to any of those top 5 teams, in particular Spurs and Arsenal, then his price is definitely going to make a movement you will be happy with. West Ham, Watford and Wolves. Well, if he goes to Wolves, you're probably quite chuffed because Wolves are most likely going to be in Europe. Probably along with Watford. Let's see how it all pans out with cup winners and who finishes where in the league and that type of thing. Watford may still have their hands on a place. West Ham of course won't. So it really depends on where he moves. Okay, now the great thing about this list is there's a lot of teams interested in him, right, which is good for Dun dun dun, media buzz, okay, it gives them good potential to finish top 5 and earn you some dividends on that, which is something you will be considering looking at. And there's 5 Premier League clubs there who have had their name put against them, which is what you want from media buzz. The more Premier League teams that are interested in someone, the more column inches they're going to get, the more likely you are to earn dividends on them. Okay, so pretty good prospects now, and as time goes on, as transfers rumble, there's always people who are late to the party in terms of the media side of things. You know, Spurs and Arsenal are linked with him now, but for all you know, like Man United could come out getting linked with him, and maybe like AC Milan, and maybe, I don't know, Atletico Madrid. You know, other teams could come out the woodwork, because moving from Copenhagen, the transfer fee is getting touted around the kind of 9 to 12 million euro mark. Which for any of those teams, even like a Borussia Dortmund or even a Frankfurt or Hoffenheim, you know, Leipzig, any of these teams, somebody, you know, that's a worthwhile gamble for a lot of clubs. So is he likely to make a transfer in the summer? I would say he's definitely going to be making a transfer in the summer. Where's he going to end up? But is where your strategy is really going to focus around, is your belief of how committed I think Spurs are to buying somebody like this. How committed do I think or Porto or Fenerbahce or West Ham going to be to signing somebody like this? And if this is the price he's sitting at the now, if you look at the rise he's had before, is he likely to get another rise when he's earning dividends? Yes. Is he likely to get another rise when he moves to the Premier League? Yes. Is he likely to dip if he doesn't fulfill any of those things? Totally. Okay. So should you buy Robert Skov? In my opinion, the jury is out, depending on what your strategy is. You know, if it's for the long term, I wouldn't be confident to give you any kind of suggestion. But if it is for the short term, to grab some buzz and potentially grab another surge, then there's definitely some potential there, depending on what level of money you're prepared to commit into him, will determine for you whether it's worthwhile, okay? And that kind of sinks into something that I wanted to kind of touch on in this video as well, is when we're talking about should you buy, and we've spoken about in the past, like Ronaldo, Felix, Jovic, and now Skov, it really depends when you're making this decision of, do you know what, how much money am I actually going to be spending on him, right? I'm going to be putting £40 into Skov. I'm not going to be doing this, by the way, I'm just using this as an ad lib. Right, okay, so if I put £40 into Skov, where do I see his price going? He's at 114 now. I buy 40, let's just do the maths. I'm going to do £40 of Skov, right? So £40 divided by 114, I'm going to end up with 35 Robert Skovs, right? 35 Robert Skovs, I see his price, and I'm just making this up as I'm speaking to you, right? I see his price getting to, let's just do highest price, and let's see where he is trend-wise. Who's he close to, okay? So Bergwijn's £1.50, okay? Bergwijn's been linked to bigger teams. Did I see him getting to there? Based on logic, maybe not, okay? We scroll down a little bit further. Sandro Tonali, Dwight McNeil, Adrian Rabiot. There's no one really comparable. Pellegrini, I don't know, he's been linked with, sorry. Alexander Isaac. So there's no one really in that kind of level above him price-wise who are linked to... You take Arsenal and Spurs to one side, otherwise it's kind of minor clubs he's been linked with, okay? There's no one really in that price category that have been linked to, with the greatest respect if you support any of those teams in the football index side of things, minor clubs, okay? So how much of a more growth can you really see in him is really then down to opinion on the growth of the market versus the demand for someone who's going to earn some minor media dividends, okay? Yeah, as I look at these names, I don't see anyone who's linked to just West Ham and Watford, or these are all people who you'd expect to be moving to bigger clubs, you know, than what we're currently discussing. So it's hard to really get a barometer on where you see his growth, okay? Now, if you look at the... So, if you look at the percentages of it, he's 114 now. He's previously hit a high. He's got a pre-established ceiling of... Can we get the crosshairs right up there? Yeah, we can. 118, okay? So you're talking about 2 or 3%. There's not very much, okay? So if we look at his pre-established ceiling, which was a few weeks ago when the market cap would have been around 85, the market cap, by the time any of this happens, let's say it's at 100, right? So the market cap has moved up around 20%. So in theory, his glass ceiling should be a little bit bigger than what it is now. Let's just say it is 20%. So if he was to move up to, say, £1.40, right, we've then got 35 times £1.40, gets us to 49, we're earning £9, minus the 2%, £8, okay? So that's got to be a big part of decision making, is buying him worth a foreseeable profit of £8 on my £40, which is a fifth, it's 20%. Is 20% a good margin to make? 100% it is. Is it worth me investing that money into him, or is there money somewhere else where it could earn me more than dividends, or do this or do that? That's a decision you've got to make for yourself. If you're committing larger sums of money, then that 20% potential that you could forecast becomes more and more appealing. But when you're making transfers like this, guys, Robert Skov is on the cheaper side of things compared to a Felix and a Jovic, certainly. So that's the counterbalance you've got to weigh up. Is the potential outlay versus the potential return worthwhile? And that's how you've got to really balance it out. And all I'm trying to do with this little video is lay out some facts for you that you're probably aware of, and some other things you might want to consider as well, like the likelihood of him actually moving to these clubs. I see Spurs reinforcing. Do I see them buying a Robert Skov? Who knows? Do I see Arsenal buying a Robert Skov? It's more like an Emery type purchase, because he's used to dealing with Monchi. If you don't know who Monchi is, go and Google him. But he's like the guru of Sevilla and Rome. He's also at Roma now, or no, he's back at Sevilla actually. When you hear about Sevilla and all the stuff they've done in Europa League, Monchi's the kind of figurehead behind the transfers and all that type of thing. So Emery's used to unearthing players like that and doing something with them. So I could see Emery pushing the boat out for somebody like that for €9 million or whatever it might be. Do I see West Ham buying him? No, but I don't see West Ham spending money on anyone really. But then, you know, they're always up for surprising you, I suppose, aren't they? Watford, yeah. Wolves, yeah. Could see them buying him. Porto, 100%. Could I see him be interested in going to Ajax? Yes, I could see that, because Ajax grab a lot of talent. You know, Christian Eriksen, and they grab a lot of talent from Scandinavia and those kind of adjacent countries. And with the success they've had and the transfer fees and the positions that people will be leaving Ajax to go to, Barcelona, who knows where De Ligt is going to go, and Van de Beek, you know, but Robert Skov could go, do you know what, that's a nice step up in my career, and it's a great platform to then make a big move to a top team. And that is a possibility for him. You know, it's not unheard of somebody would make that move. And Fenerbahce, I don't really see that happening. I don't think he'd fancy moving. Fenerbahce, Turkey and Russia are kind of off the, you know, it doesn't really, doing well in those countries, unfortunately, doesn't really earn you much of a reputation in European football, versus even Ajax or Porto. If you do well for them, then making a big transfer is always on the cards. But if you move to somebody like Spartak Moscow, or Zenit, Fenerbahce, Besiktas, it's not very often you get a big transfer to a top European giant really off the back of that. And I'm sure you guys will give me some examples of when it has happened, don't get me wrong, but I'm sure you can equally appreciate playing for Porto, Benfica, Ajax. You're more likely to get signed for Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, Manchester City, Paris Saint-Germain, Juventus, you know. Okie doke. If you've liked the video, guys, like, share, retweet. I was going to tell you a little story, but the videos, I kind of thought when I get to the little sign off bit at the end of the video, I'll tell you a little story, but the videos were running a little bit too long, so I'll maybe save that for another day. But like, share, retweet, all that good stuff, guys. Stay out of trouble, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye bye.